Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions. The mystery of the cosmic web. The universe's large-scale structure matches a living neural network. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 2020, a team of astrophysicists and neuroscientists from the University of Bologna and the University of Vermont published a paper comparing two images side by side. One was a simulation of the large-scale structure of the universe, the cosmic web, the filaments of dark matter and galaxies that connect superclusters across billions of light years. The other was a scanning electron microscope image of a section of the human cerebral cortex, neurons and their connections, at a scale of micrometers. The visual similarity was immediately striking, but the researchers went further. They performed a quantitative statistical comparison of the two structures, measuring the clustering coefficient, the degree distribution, and the spectral density of information across both systems. The results were published in Frontiers in Physics and are among the most philosophically unsettling scientific papers of the decade. The statistical properties of the cosmic web and the human neural network are essentially identical. The cosmic web is the largest structure in the observable universe. After the Big Bang, matter distributed itself unevenly under the influence of quantum fluctuations and gravity, eventually forming a vast network of filaments, strings of dark matter, and gas hundreds of millions of light years long, connecting dense nodes of galaxy clusters. The voids between the filaments are almost entirely empty. The whole structure looks, at the largest scale, exactly like a three-dimensional neural network or a mycelial network. The similarity has been noted informally by cosmologists and philosophers for decades, but the 2020 paper was the first to demonstrate it rigorously through statistical comparison rather than visual analogy. The question this finding raises is not merely aesthetic, but potentially profound. If two systems as different in scale as the cosmic web, measured in billions of light years, and the human brain, measured in centimeters, have statistically identical organizational properties, what does that mean? Is it a coincidence arising from common mathematical constraints that govern self-organizing systems of any scale? Is it an indicator of something deeper about the nature of reality, that the universe, like a brain, is processing information in ways we have not yet detected? And if the universe is, in some structural sense, brain-like, is there any meaningful sense in which it could also be mind-like? The question sits on the boundary between physics and philosophy, and the 2020 paper put it squarely on the table. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we go further, if you are finding this investigation compelling, please take a moment right now to like this video, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and share it with someone who loves a good historical mystery. If you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. If you found us through Facebook, tap follow on our page. It takes just a few seconds, and it genuinely helps us keep making these documentaries. Now, let us get back to the investigation. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the expanding frontier of unexplained cosmic phenomena, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Space is not quiet. The universe is filled with electromagnetic signals, from the cosmic microwave background radiation left over from the Big Bang to the steady roar of stellar activity at every wavelength of the electromagnetic spectrum. Against this noise, radio astronomers look for something specific, signals that are narrowband, repeating, and structured, the signatures of intelligence rather than nature. Natural processes tend to produce broadband emissions spread across many frequencies. A narrowband signal at a single precise frequency suggests something deliberately tuned, and deliberate tuning implies a tuner. The search for such signals has been ongoing since 1960, when Frank Drake pointed a radio telescope at two nearby stars and listened. In the 60-plus years since, the instrumentation has grown enormously in sensitivity, and the sky survey coverage has expanded from a handful of stars to millions. The verdict so far is ambiguous. No confirmed, repeating signal from an extraterrestrial intelligence has been received, but several anomalous signals have been detected, investigated, and not definitively explained, including at least one that, had it been received today, would meet every criterion the scientific community had previously agreed would constitute first contact. The silence of the cosmos is not total. It is merely inscrutable. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the cosmic web, the universe's large-scale structure, matches a living neural network, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The cosmic web was first predicted theoretically by Yakov Zeldovich and colleagues in the 1970s and confirmed observationally through large-scale galaxy surveys, including the 2D F-Galaxy Redshift Survey 2003 and the Lone Digital Sky Survey SDSS, which mapped the positions of millions of galaxies across significant fractions of the observable universe. The web consists of filaments, thin thread-like structures of dark matter and gas connecting galaxy clusters, walls, flat sheet-like structures, nodes, dense intersections where filaments meet, corresponding to the most massive galaxy clusters, and voids, nearly empty regions between filaments, typically 100-300 million light-years in diameter. The filaments range from tens to hundreds of millions of light-years in length. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the 2020 paper by Franco Vazza, University of Bologna, and Alberto Felletti, University of Verona, conducted a rigorous quantitative comparison of the cosmic web and the human cerebral neuronal network using spectral density analysis and spatial distribution measurements. They found that within the range of scales they examined, the cosmic web at scales of 5-500 million light-years and neuronal networks at scales of 0.1 millimeters, both systems showed almost identical spatial distribution patterns and clustering characteristics. The paper explicitly cautioned that this similarity does not imply any functional or causal connection between the two systems, but stated that it raises interesting questions about the universality of self-organization principles. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine, The mechanism that produces the cosmic web's filamentary structure is well understood. Gravity acting on small initial quantum fluctuations in the density of the early universe caused matter to cluster into pancakes and filaments following paths predicted by the Zeldovich approximation. This is a deterministic physical process with no information processing occurring. The brain's neural network structure arises through a completely different mechanism: evolutionary pressure, developmental genetics, synaptic plasticity, and does process information. The structural similarity between the two is therefore a coincidence arising from common mathematical constraints on self-organizing network structures, not evidence of a shared function. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation, but the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the cosmic web contains, within the observable universe, approximately 100 billion galaxies connected by filaments containing dark matter, hydrogen gas, and plasma. The nodes of the web, the most massive galaxy clusters, can contain thousands of galaxies and dark matter halos extending for millions of light years. The density contrast between the nodes and the voids is approximately a factor of 1,000 to 10,000. The nodes are 1,000 to 10,000 times denser than the average density of the universe, while the voids contain almost nothing. This dramatic density contrast, visible in cosmic web simulations, is what creates the visually striking filamentary appearance that resembles a neural network. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of several other biological and natural systems have also been identified as having structural similarities to the cosmic web, suggesting that the comparison is not unique to the brain. The mycelial network of fungi, the vascular system of plant leaves, and the distribution of rivers in a drainage basin all show similar branching, filamentary network structures with nodes, filaments, and voids. These similarities are explained by network science. There are a limited number of efficient ways to build connected networks under constraints of economy, minimizing connection length, and resilience, maintaining connectivity when nodes fail. Both the cosmic web and the brain are subject to analogous constraints, producing analogous structures. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: the philosophical implications of the cosmic web-brain comparison were notably explored by cosmologist Lee Smolin and by philosopher Thomas Nagel in the context of the question of whether the universe might have mental properties. Panpsychism, the philosophical position that mind or consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality at all scales, gains no scientific confirmation from the 2020 structural comparison, since structural similarity does not imply functional equivalence. However, the paper has been widely cited in popular science and philosophical discourse as an evocative illustration of the principle that the universe's organizational properties may have a universality that transcends scale, a concept known in physics as scaling invariance or self-similarity. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the cosmic web. the universe's large-scale structure matches a living neural network. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the scale-free network theory, the mainstream scientific explanation, holds that the cosmic web and the brain both exemplify scale-free or small-world network architectures that arise naturally in many different physical, biological, and social systems governed by preferential attachment and minimization of connection length. Under this view, the similarity between the two is a mathematical inevitability rather than a mystery. Any system that grows by preferential attachment, new nodes connecting preferentially to already well-connected nodes, will develop power law degree distributions and fractal-like organization. The brain and the cosmic web are simply two of the many systems that satisfy these conditions. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the universal information processing theory, explored by physicist Max Tegmark and others, proposes that the structure of the universe is inherently information theoretic, that the mathematical patterns observed in the cosmic web reflect deep properties of the universe's physical laws that also govern biological information processing. Under this view, the brain-cosmos structural similarity is not coincidental, but reflects the fact that both systems are governed by the same underlying mathematical laws, and that those laws favor certain types of network organization at any scale. This does not imply the universe is conscious, but does suggest that consciousness, wherever it arises, must conform to structures that the universe's laws produce naturally. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the simulation theory variant of this finding, popular in philosophical and futurist circles, proposes that if the universe's large-scale structure is computationally similar to a neural network, this may be circumstantial evidence that the universe is itself a computational system, consistent with simulation hypothesis arguments. Under this view, the brain-cosmos similarity is a clue that both are instances of the same type of computational substrate. This theory is unfalsifiable in principle and is not treated as scientific by mainstream physics, but it has generated significant philosophical discussion following the 2020 paper. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the cosmic web, the universe's large-scale structure, matches a living neural network, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the quantitative data from Vaza and Felletti's 2020 analysis provides the strongest evidence for the structural similarity. Their measurements of spectral density, the distribution of power across spatial frequency scales, showed overlap between cosmic web simulations and cerebral neuronal network scans within a statistical error range of approximately 5–10%. The spectral density comparison is more rigorous than visual similarity because it captures the full three-dimensional organizational properties of both systems across multiple scales simultaneously. The results were peer-reviewed and published in a respected physics journal, making them the most credible quantitative comparison available. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented large-scale cosmic web simulations, including the Millennium Simulation, 2005, and the Illustris TNG Simulation, 2018, have produced increasingly detailed maps of the cosmic web that can be compared directly with observed galaxy distributions and with structural models of biological networks. The agreement between simulations and observations confirms that the cosmic web's properties are well understood physically, while the observed agreement with neural network statistics remains an open question of interpretation. The simulations make the cosmic web's structure accessible for statistical analysis in ways that complement and extend the 2020 paper's findings. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed historical precedents for unexpected structural similarities between physical and biological systems suggest that such parallels sometimes indicate deep mathematical principles. The Fibonacci sequence appearing in plant phyllotaxis, the fractal structure appearing in coastlines and lung bronchioles, and the power law distributions appearing in earthquake magnitudes and word frequency distributions all reflect underlying mathematical constraints that transcend the specific physical mechanisms of each system. The cosmic web-brain similarity may belong to this category of mathematically constrained structural convergence rather than being coincidental or physically meaningful in a deeper sense. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the cosmic web. The universe's large-scale structure matches a living neural network. Now, we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The cosmic web continues to be mapped in increasing detail by successive generations of galaxy surveys. The Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, DESI, which began full operations in 2021, is producing a three-dimensional map of 35 million galaxies, the largest such map ever created, that will resolve the fine structure of the cosmic web at unprecedented resolution. This data will allow statistical comparisons with biological network structures to be conducted with far greater precision than the 2020 Vasafelitti paper could achieve. The James Webb Space Telescope, launched in December 2021, is beginning to observe the cosmic web at high redshift, showing us what the web looked like when the universe was young, providing a developmental timeline for comparison with the brain's own developmental arc from embryo to adult. The deeper philosophical question raised by the cosmic web-brain comparison, whether the universe has any form of experience or information processing at the macroscopic scale, remains entirely open and is currently beyond scientific investigation. The mainstream scientific view is that the structural similarity is a mathematical coincidence arising from universal network constraints, not evidence of cosmic consciousness. But the question has motivated serious philosophical work and has contributed to renewed academic interest in panpsychism and in theories of consciousness that relate mind to physical organization rather than biological substrate. Whether the universe thinks is a question science cannot currently answer. That it is organized like something that does remains one of the most visually and intellectually striking facts in modern cosmology. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the cosmic web. The universe's large-scale structure matches a living neural network, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of cosmic web ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please help us reach more people. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary. If you are watching on Facebook, tap the follow button on our page to stay connected. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.